It's been on my bucket list just about as long as I can remember. I recall hearing the words spoken many times on our big Philco radio set when Daddy would listen to games being played there back in the 1940s. Wasn't any TV back then, you know. I remember being impressed by the same word during a family vacation to California. Mother and Daddy said it was the name of a huge mansion high on a hill overlooking the quaint harbor of Avalon, a mansion that stood out prominently as our ferry boat slowly approached beautiful Catalina Island. The name was Wrigley, of course, and Wrigley Field in Chicago was the place on my bucket list that I wanted to visit. But here it is, the year 2019, and it's still on my list. So on May 8th, my good friend and cousin Eli Absey from Pittsburgh and I did something about it. That morning, he met me at Chicago's Midway Airport with 2 tickets to tomorrow afternoon's Cubs game. Finally, I was going to experience Wrigley Field. But first, we were in for another treat. Tom Davey, a friend of Eli, picked us up at Midway. We were just expecting a ride downtown to our hotel, but Tom, obviously very proud of Chicago, had plans to show us his toddling town. While we were still on the south side, he first drove us by Kaminsky Park, which I had never seen. He then took us to eat at Gio's Grocery and Deli, where I had never been. That turned out to be a real treat. Gio's is a delightful neighborhood Italian grocery store and deli on a quiet residential street on the south side, a place you'll never find unless you know it's there. Gio's is classic Chicago, catering mostly to the locals. Speaking of locals, just about the time we had placed our order, a very well-dressed man with 3 equally well-dressed companions came in and sat down at a nearby table. Tom nodded towards their table and said to us, "Now he is the closest to Chicago royalty that you'll ever see." That man just happened to be a relative of former Chicago Mayor Richard Daley. Tom knew who he was because Tom, you see, is a former Chicago policeman. After a wonderful lunch, Tom drove us through Greektown, Chinatown, both on the outskirts of downtown. Then we made our way around McCormick Place and drove by DePaul University, always with the icon Sears Tower looming in the distance. Somewhere along the way, he even drove us through an area called Boys Town. Not only did Tom show us the police station where Hill Street Blues was filmed, but drove us by the very spot where the St. Valentine's Day Massacre actually took place. Tom even knew exactly where Dean O'Bannon's flower shop had been located. O'Bannon, he was the boss of the North Side gang, and his shop was where they planned their ongoing war with Al Capone's South Side gang during Prohibition. Tom even swung us by Wrigley Field on the north side before dropping us off at the Renaissance Chicago Hotel that afternoon. Boy, having Tom Davey show us his beloved hometown was very, very special indeed. Thank you so much, Tom. The Renaissance Chicago, a beautiful 5-star hotel at 1 West Upper Wacker Drive, was our home away from home for 2 wonderful days. From our spacious room on the 21st floor, we could look down on the Chicago River and Trump Tower to our left, and the Chicago Theater to our right. The hotel's bars and restaurants were all first class, and importantly, the hotel was less than a block from the L Station Red Line. From there, it was just a 20-minute ride to the Addison Station, just a block from Wrigley Field. Wrigleyville, the community of shops, restaurants, and bars surround the ballpark. Fans gather here before and after games to relax, refresh, and talk Cubs baseball. Interestingly, some of the houses and apartments behind Wrigley Field earned quite a reputation a while back by installing and renting bleachers atop their roofs to lure Cubs fans with cheap seats. Needless to say, that this didn't go over well with Wrigley management. They retaliated by installing 2 massive signs to try and block their view. Homeowners simply moved their bleachers in response, proving once again that American ingenuity is still alive and well. May 9th, 2019, we arrived at Wrigley Field that morning with plenty of time to enjoy a beer and share a plate of nachos in Wrigleyville before the game. Today's game was between the Cubs and the Miami Marlins. The Cubs won, which made the game very exciting. But most importantly to me, it was the day I finally got to experience the iconic Wrigley Field and mark it off my bucket list. Following are the sights and sounds we heard that day. Thank you very much for watching my video. I'm Duane Whitlow.